and welcome to a new session of Banking Bytes and I am Kush Pandey. आज का जो टॉपिक है वो है कुछ ऐसे कंफ्यूजिंग टर्म्स जो कि आप कई बार उनको लेकर कंफ्यूज होते हो. Such terms which are used and which we are confused many a times. Well, such terms could be a share, a stock, a stake, a debenture and a bond. Several of you had asked this question, what is the difference between a debenture and a bond? What is the difference between a share, stock and a stake? So in this 5-minute video, we will try to explain you each and everything in detail in the shortest time possible. So first of all, the first term that we'll take up is a stock. Now, first of all, what is a stock? A stock could be a paper. That paper is called as a security because that paper states that some individual has bought ownership, has bought shares of a certain company. एक ऐसा पेपर, एक ऐसा दस्तावेज जो इस बात को प्रमाणित करता है कि एक व्यक्ति ने या कंपनी ने शेयर खरीदे हैं एक कंपनी के, उसे हम कहते हैं स्टॉक. सो द टोटल नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स इज इक्वल टू अ स्टॉक. ये आप स्क्रीन पर देख भी सकते हैं. स्टॉक बेसिकली इज अ सिक्योरिटी. Security is a piece of paper online or offline that represents the state of ownership in that particular company. So for example, अगर हम यहाँ बात करें, I own 50,000 shares of Reliance. Now that would be pretty good. But if I own 50,000 shares, the total stock would be 50,000. The big question would be, if that is a stock, then what is a share? Each unit, आप देख सकते हैं स्क्रीन पर, each unit of a stock will be called as a share. So we have two terms, guys. We have a stock and we have a share. The total number of shares is also called as a stock. For example, generally in the literal sense, a stock is a document that clearly states the number of shares or that clearly represents the number of shares owned by the individual or by the company. यहाँ पर अगर मैं एग्जाम्पल आपको दूं, देखिए लिखा भी हुआ है, रमेश owns 80,000 shares of stock in a company. So how many shares? 80,000. And what is the total number of shares? That is what is the stock? That is 80,000. So if we have to use the word for the total number of shares, that would be a stock. And if we have to use it in the smallest unit, it would be called as a share. So I hope it is pretty clear what is a stock and what is a share. जैसे कि our body is formed of cells. Now cells is the unit, but the total body is formed of number of cells. That could be a particular organism. For example, me as a human is an organism, but I am comprised of cells. Similarly, the total number of shares is stock and each unit of that stock is called as a share. फिर आते हैं एक और term पे, that is stake. Stake is nothing but the percentage of the total stock. For example, Ramesh owns 80,000 shares, which is 80% of the total stock of 1 lakh shares of a company. For example, if in a company we have 1 lakh shares and I own 80,000. So what is the percentage of the total stock? It is 80% because I own 80,000. So whenever we take up shares, the smallest unit is a share. The total number of units, the total number of shares is a stock, and the percentage of the total stock is called as a stake. Then these three terms are equity instruments because here you generate capital by offering shares. On the other hand, if a company has to borrow money, if a company has to raise money, it can also raise the money by borrowing from the market. If we borrow, it is never an equity. If we borrow, it is always a debt. So we have two terms, guys. We have a equity and we have a debt. Equity instruments जो आपके common terms थे वो थे share, stock और stake. In terms of the debt, we have two terms, guys, that are very important, bond and debentures. So whenever a company takes advance, takes a loan from the customers, it does so through the help of a paper That paper acknowledges that a debt has been taken, a loan has been taken from a customer. That paper also states that a particular interest and a particular time duration is set for the repayment of that particular amount taken by the company. Such a document would be called as a debenture. So in short, a debenture is a document that acknowledges the debt for a fixed time period with a fixed interest. Generally, it is offered by a company. So कंपनी ऑफर्ड डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आर कॉल्ड एज डिबेंचर्स. इंडिया के अंदर कई बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज भी करती हैं. तो जब एक कंपनी शेयर्स ना ऑफर करके आपसे पैसा ले, इट बोरोज मनी एंड इट विल प्रोवाइड यू अ डॉक्यूमेंट. दैट डॉक्यूमेंट वुड बी कॉल्ड एज अ डिबेंचर. Similarly, when such a thing is done by the government or out of India, it is done by highly rated companies, that would be called as a bond. मैं यहाँ पर आपसे क्लियर कर दूँ कि in India, for example, the public sector banks, the government agencies, if they offer debentures, that would be a bond. The others would be called as debentures. But around the world, especially in the US, if a highly rated body offers a debenture, that can also be called as a bond. पर अगर इंडिया की बात करें तो हम सेफली कह सकते हैं कि अगर गवर्नमेंट ने जारी किया एक डिबेंचर, उसे हम कहेंगे बॉन्ड, और अगर जारी किया किसी कंपनी, उसे हम कहेंगे एक डिबेंचर. सो आई होप आपको समझ में आ गया होगा. वी हैव अ स्टॉक, वी हैव अ शेयर, वी हैव अ स्टेक, वी हैव अ डिबेंचर, वी हैव अ बॉन्ड. इन दी एंड याद रखिएगा, टोटल नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स इज अ स्टॉक. Each unit of a stock is called as a share. The percentage of the total stock of a company is called as a stake. The document that acknowledges debt taken by a company from the customer for a fixed time period and a fixed interest would be called as debenture. If a debenture is offered in India, generally by a government, it would be called as a bond. So these were the important 4 to 5 terms that you should know. The Banking Bytes focuses on making you understand the confusing and important topics for the examination in the most precise time possible. So do watch them on a daily basis. They are uploaded from Monday to Friday. Thank you so much and peace out.